This is the Yolo Cam S3. It's a 4K AI-powered webcam from YoloLive, built for creators and professionals looking for exceptional image quality and control. It features a larger sensor than you'd typically find in a webcam, with a fast 1.85 lens, phase detect autofocus, and HDR for well-lit images, even in mixed lighting. It shoots up to 4K at 30 frames per second or 1080p at 60 frames per second, a wide 82-degree field of view, 4x digital zoom to 1080p, and supports ISO 100 all the way up to 12,800. All of that supplemented with full manual controls. The camera connects via USB-C and comes with a magnetic mount. The YoloCam S3 uses a 1/1.3-inch CMOS sensor, which is unusually large for a webcam and gives it a real edge in image quality. The camera design is minimal. No buttons, no knobs, nothing to get in the way. Everything's handled through software, keeping the setup clean and simple. It feels a little more like an action cam than a traditional webcam. Mounting is super easy. The magnetic base lets you stick it just about anywhere. Horizontal, vertical, monitor, whatever works for your setup. It's also compact and well built. The body is machined from aluminum, so it feels sturdy without being too heavy. You can leave it running for long sessions without worrying about heat. It's built to handle continuous streaming or recording. It captures 4K video with more light, better detail, and smoother tones than most other webcams. The larger sensor also adds some natural depth and separation, so it feels closer to using a professional camera than a built-in laptop cam. In addition to the automatic modes, you also get full manual control over your image through the YoloLive Compose app, which lets you adjust exposure, white balance, sharpness, and color settings. Thankfully, it's very intuitive and streamlined and gives you the control you need if you care about dialing in your look instead of relying on the automatic settings. It's a strong plug-and-play choice for streaming, meetings, or any other webcam setup. Just be aware there's no internal microphone. We'll talk a bit more about that later, but make sure you have a solution for that. Before we dive in, I do want to mention one thing. Your frame rate and your resolution are always going to be determined by that final destination. This camera doesn't have internal recording capabilities, so you're either streaming or recording somewhere else. I mention this because for demonstration purposes, I'm doing a screen capture and I was trying to record my stream. But by doing that, I introduced some frame rate stutter. You'll see it, it's kind of imperceptible, but I definitely notice it, especially compared to this camera when you're A/Bing them. But I wanted to set up this demonstration, this test scenario, to show you that the hardware itself is capable of 4K 30. So right now I've got the camera, the Yolo Cam S3, running into the Yolo Box Extreme just via a simple USB-C video signal. It's recording there, and you can see it is indeed 4K 30 to match this camera. But in any other scenario, if you're streaming or recording, just be careful. Zoom, Teams, StreamYard, whatever the software is, can limit your resolution and it can limit your frame rate. Right here, I'm recording on a professional cinema camera in 4K, but I just plugged in the YoloCam S3, also recording in 4K. And you can see there's difference between the two, but I wanna see how close we can get these cameras to match. So I'm gonna take you through all those manual settings right now. This is what the YoloLive Compose app looks like. And the first setting you have, the first option, is to shift whether you're shooting vertical or horizontal. Right now, my camera is mounted horizontally, so this looks wrong, but with a click of a button, there we have the proper orientation and we're all good. I can also change my frame rate, but right now I'm recording 4K and the maximum there is 4K 30, so we're good. When we go into image settings, you can see some additional options here, but I'm not really gonna mess with any of this. There is lens shading correction on by default. I'll turn it off so you can kind of see it gives it a little bit more of a vignette. So depending on your preference, depending on what you like the look of, you can change between the two. I might leave that off for now. Speaking of focus, truly focusing, there is autofocus continuous, autofocus single, but what I think most people will probably want is face detect autofocus. You can see the moment I do that, it immediately grabs onto my face and tracks me wherever I go. This is really helpful when you have setups like this where a microphone might be in the way. So on continuous autofocus, it's going to see this and then maybe, struggle a little bit hunting between, do you want me focused on the microphone, on your face? What are you looking for? If you flip it to face, you're locked in. You can get really, really close there with that autofocus continuous. So if that works for you, or if you go to face mode, it'll auto track just like that. So that's really, if you want to be holding stuff up to the camera, I think your best bet is to be on autofocus continuous, and then you'll have a lot better reliability for showing stuff to the camera. And you can see it kind of like locks in right there. But if you're just only tracking faces, probably keep it on face detect. That way, no matter where you move, if you get closer or further away, it's always looking for that face. I think when I'm showing it this hand, it's looking for a face and getting really confused, wondering like, what the heck are you doing to me? And it's interesting, you almost have to do it kind of slowly in phases. So as you get closer, it follows, and it tracks with it. If I jump from all the way back here up to like here and try and trick it, it does actually get tricked. It doesn't know that it wants to focus here in the foreground anymore because I didn't kind of move with it. So if you're trying to track focus, probably, let it kind of match your speed. Don't go too quick, and it stays locked in exactly there. And then you remove it and you're good to go. I'm going to leave it on face detect because that's probably what I'd be using mostly. There is a zoom option where you can digitally zoom in. They say it's lossless, but your results may vary there. I'm shooting 4K right now, so I'm going to say that this is probably not going to be truly lossless in 4K, but in 1080p, it certainly could be. I don't know why you would need to zoom in this much. This says this is a 98 millimeter equivalent, but by default, it's set to 50 millimeter. That 82 degree field of view looks quite nice for most setups. This is kind of a normal arm's length away from where I'm sitting. So very comfortable to sit and stream if that's what you're using for, even a podcast. And if you do need to zoom in to kind of crop that image a little bit, you certainly can zoom in here to kind of reframe. There's an option for AI parameter, and I haven't used this before. So this is kind of rolling the dice, a wild card here. Let's see what this does. You need to log in to do it. So now I'm logged in. We're going to find out what this AI parameter actually does. Do you want to start AI parameter tuning? Sure. Please try to keep the scene and people stationary after the host enters the frame so we can adjust for the best results. Right now, I guess the AI is looking at the image, trying to fine tune it to give the best results. We'll see. Please select the preferred streaming image brightness. I think I prefer that one. A lot of times automatic modes struggle with dark materials, with bright lights. Now, I don't see any radical difference between what the AI chose versus what the automatic settings were, but I should note this setup is quite difficult for any kind of automatic mode. I have a bright light here, bright light in the background, dark t-shirt. So there's a lot that the camera is trying to sense and guess. Do you want this exposed? Do you want that exposed? That's why I like the full manual controls where I can go in here and just dial in exactly what I want. Right now, that ISO seems a little too high to me. I want my shirt to be black. So dial that down. That looks a bit better. I do want my shutter at 1/60th because we're shooting 30 frames a second. So we'll stick with that 180 degree shutter angle rule. My white balance, if I'm in manual here, now I know because I have this light set to it, that this light is set to 65, I think actually. So I'm going to go all the way up to 65 and see what we're doing. There, 65. That looks a little green to my eye, and I might not even want it that warm. This looks like it's in Chinese. I don't know what this is. What is this setting? A lot of times with color, you could spend minutes, hours, days optimizing how you want your color to look. And then audio settings. So this is a little misleading because there is no microphone in the YoloCam S3. Maybe for other camera models, this is an option, but for this device, there's no audio, so there's nothing to adjust here. If we do something like that, you can now see the difference between these two cameras. Every camera sees color kind of differently, so you really have to spend the time to dial it in exactly based on the color profile, based on the sensor, based on the lens. There's so many variables. The nice thing with the YoloCam S3 is it does have that AI mode. If you don't know about any of this, you can just click that and it'll probably do a decent job. Again, I'm giving it kind of a challenging scenario where there's some very powerful lights in this room. They're not at full intensity, but they are, decently bright compared to what you'd have for a typical webcam. Most of the time, a lot of people, when they have a webcam, they don't have very good lighting at all. So let's try that out. You can kind of see how it handles this type of lighting where there's just one single key light. It's not super bright, but it's decently exposing me here. Let's bring this main light way down. Right now it's at 15%. If I bring it all the way down, very dim lighting like you might have in a typical webcam setup, obviously my exposure drops on both because I have it set to manual. But the beauty is I can just go in here on the YoloCam S3 and bump this up. Even if we had to go like, this is crazy bright for, for how dim it is. I would say, you know, the dimmest room you'd probably ever be in is probably like this. And the camera is still way, you know, the ISO is off the charts, way too bright. You can really dial it in however you like based on what you're after, what you have control over. Oftentimes you don't have control over the lights in your setup, so you might just leave it on auto and let it do its thing. But right now, because the room is so dark, but this light source is here on me, it's probably going to try and expose for all of it. And you might not want that. Oftentimes you might want the background to be kind of dark. So that's where I'd flip it to manual. Before, when I had the color in the background, it's obviously going to struggle. It's trying to decide what's white, what's not, what's supposed to be blue, what's supposed to be white. So now with just this light, it's going to do its best job calibrating, which is usually kind of what you want. It would be nice here in the manual mode if there was kind of a color picker. I always like that when I can just say that's supposed to be white, and it automatically does it in a manual mode. But you can actually lock the auto. They just added this in a firmware update. So if I'm in auto white balance and I like how this looks, I can lock it, and now it's not going to change. So let me turn my color lights on in the background again. So it says it's locked, but it's not locking. Watch this. So locked, clearly that looks good. And then I change it, and now all of a sudden the white balance starts shifting. So even though they've added a lock mode, it doesn't look like it's actually working yet. Seems like a bug that they'll probably fix. I could really spend all day here dialing things in, tweaking, adjusting, getting it just right for my setup. And that's what I enjoy out of some of these devices, is really that optimization. But other people might want it just to work right out of the box, and it does just that. You give it your typical setup, normal lighting, normal conditions, and it's going to do a great job in automatic. But if you want to take it to that next level, like I do, you have the full manual control, which often you don't get with these types of devices. Usually these simple plug and play devices are dummy proof, and that means all the settings are automatic all the time. And I struggle in those scenarios because I want that manual control. I want that level of precision to know exactly what my exposure is, my ISO, my shutter. All of those controls are really valuable to me. So I really appreciate having something so simple, but also fully customizable. This software is really intuitive. Even if you've never touched a camera before, I think you could figure this stuff out. Focus, do you want it on your face? What are your image settings? This is the one menu that's maybe a little bit overwhelming for people, but sharpness, contrast, saturation, these are all normal settings you might see on a television or even on your phone. You can adjust a lot of these settings. So having that level of control over a webcam, I really appreciate. And again, all this is a simple USB-C. One cable straight into the computer, plug and play, let's go. I might even want to turn my contrast down. Oh my goodness, that is way too much down. Let's get back up to 50 where we were, and slowly but surely just reduce that contrast to an acceptable level. Maybe 45? Do we like that? I'm going to say maybe. On these screens, of course, this is the fun thing of color. You're always chasing different variables. Is it the screen that looks a little bit different? You know, this screen versus that screen, that camera versus that camera. What are you truly adjusting? You can see the blue here, to my eye, looks a little bit different than the blue here. We've got more of a teal color on this camera, where this camera is a truer blue. That's always just going to come down to the camera itself, the sensor, how it's processing the color, the light that it's seeing. And it is one of the deepest rabbit holes you can go down, is how to match the color from one camera to another. I'm not going to go into it in this video. We don't have time for that, but it is something to keep an eye out for. If you're trying to match different cameras, different color, it is a tedious task. Most people should be fine though, because they're probably only going to be using one camera. So I think that's a pretty good approximation between these two cameras. Now that I'm in manual white balance, let's go back here to changing our color in the background. We got the gold there, we got the gold there. It's all the settings I would normally be adjusting on a professional camera, and to have that capability on a webcam is really powerful. Normally I'd be plugging in a professional camera, whether it's a cinema camera or a photography camera, running, HDMI, converting it to USB-C, getting power to the camera. Maybe the camera supports USB-C output, but the device itself is a lot bigger. The lens is a lot bigger. This YoloCam S3 is that perfect tiny action cam size, really powerful stuff for something so small and compact and deceptively simple. One thing to keep in mind, it doesn't have a built-in microphone. You'll need a separate audio setup, whether that's your laptop mic, a USB mic, or some kind of audio interface. So I recommend buying a decent microphone to match the sound quality to the video quality. But I don't want to scare you away either. If you want it to be simple, it can do that. It doesn't have to be as complicated as I'm showing and making it. That's if you want to take it to that level for that professional control. But if you want it super simple, it can do that for you too. Setup itself takes seconds. It's plug and play, so you don't need drivers or complicated software installs. It connects with a single USB-C cable that handles both power and video. Make sure you avoid USB 2 since that will limit your frame rate significantly. As long as you're plugged into a USB 3 port with a properly rated cable, you'll get full 4K at 30 frames per second or 1080p at 60. The YoloCam Cam S3 is a solid fit for people who need a professional looking image without building out a full camera rig. Streamers, podcasters, educators, and business pros doing webinars will all get a big upgrade in the image quality with very little effort. If you do want to dig deeper, the Compose app gives you all the manual and creative controls you could ever want. This is the perfect camera when you don't want to get out the big cinema camera or photo camera, but you do want that extra image quality you're not quite getting from a laptop webcam. This is the perfect camera for that job.